Good morning, everybody. My name is Shana Hill, and I'm the chair of the UNC Employee Forum. And I don't have any real formal remarks, although it says on the agenda that I have formal remarks. But I did want to just share from the heart that 2020 has been one of the most challenging periods in my work life ever. COVID has been the most disruptive change agent that I think we all have ever faced, along with everything else that's been going on. And so I feel privileged to sit in this seat at this time and and be in this space because the work is so difficult and advocacy for staff is so needed. I have witnessed folks absolutely transforming operations. I've seen you take your operations off campus, back on campus, and back off campus again. And we're still in it. We never stopped working, strategizing, propping each other up, helping each other, working through things that we've never encountered. And so I don't want it to be lost that in a year of absolute horrible firsts, this first is amazing. This is the first ever staff advisory council to the chancellor. I am beyond honored to be a part of it. To have been asked to co-chair is just an honor of a lifetime. So that's all I really wanted to say, is that I'm really hopeful with this process, because I think the greatest change comes from when we are allowed to sit down, talk to each other, and create wonderful, meaningful relationships with each other. The chancellor and I have had some difficult conversations over the last year, and I think we have grown stronger for it. I think we've created an honesty, and that's what I think is going to be needed to get us through this next phase of this horribly disruptive change agent. So thank you very much for allowing me this honor. And I think I'm going to pass it on to the chancellor.
Great. Thanks, Shana. Well, first of all, it's great to be here with everyone. And Shana, I want to thank you for saying yes to co-chairing this new staff advisory committee to the chancellor. And I want to welcome, as Shana just did, each of you to our first official meeting of the staff advisory committee to the chancellor. Maybe it will become known as STAC, which is a little easier to say than the full name, but I just want to thank each of you for saying yes to this important initiative. And, you know, since becoming chancellor and in my 25 years here at Carolina as a faculty member, I've been reminded every day of the importance of our staff. I've seen it as a faculty member, as a center director, as a department chair, as an associate dean, a dean, and now as chancellor. And we're grateful for the important work that's done every day across our campus. And so I just want to start today by saying thank you to those who are representing the staff as members of this committee, but also to all of our staff out there who are working tirelessly every day. Our staff are the heart of our university, and I've said that often, and I mean it. And I know that I speak for many other faculty and leaders on our campus that we feel this way. I've also said many times during the pandemic that the university has always been open. We've never really closed down, and that is because of our staff. It's because of many of you that are sitting here at this first meeting today. You've continued to work on campus. Many of you have continued to work on campus, and many others have successfully shifted to working remotely and ensuring that we can carry out the important mission of the university, teaching, research, and service. And again, it's been a coordinated effort, and we're thankful. We're appreciative of all the sacrifices that many of you have made, and how you continue to serve in so many different ways. And one of the priorities as chancellor that I've laid out is to try to increase transparency on our campus. And I know that at times we've done this well, and other times we haven't. And I want to hear when we haven't been as transparent as our staff, faculty, and students need us to be. And so I'm committed to this as part of my leadership. And I know that the leadership team not just in the South Building, but those around campus. Our deans and associate vice chancellors and center directors feel the same way. One of the critical pieces of that work is to ensure that I'm able to receive regular feedback from our campus, and I would say that our deans want to hear the same. Our center directors want to hear when something's not going well. While I've enjoyed many opportunities, and thank you, Shana, for coming to speak to the employee forum, I recognize that we didn't have an advisory committee for faculty, or I'm sorry, for staff, similar to what we have for faculty and students. Those two advisory committees have been in place for many years. And I will continue to come to employee forum when I'm asked to, and to provide updates and to listen to the voices, the elected voices there. But I felt as if we needed an advisory committee that we could meet monthly, that I can meet monthly with, and on occasion bring in others to listen or to provide some updates or to ask the questions of the committee, advisory committee, that we need some feedback on. And so that's really, was the sort of the genesis, I guess, of this committee coming together and talking to Shana and some others. We just felt it was important. So I know that I need more opportunities like that, and I think that this will allow me the opportunity to hear from many of those who are working on the front lines, and it will be important that each of you are out talking to your various constituencies and those that you work closely with, to bring those voices to the table for these conversations, these important conversations that we'll have. I think the need for this was also highlighted in the employee forum's recent report on the survey from August. And so that also led me to believe that we need more opportunity for those voices to be heard. And so today, I'm as excited as Shana is that we're launching STAC with the goal of hearing from more critical staff constituencies. And I'm charging you today to listen to those constituencies, to ask me the tough questions, and to share ideas and perspectives from your fellow colleagues. I've never been a big believer in just because we've always done something a certain way that we have to continue to do that. I think Shana knows that as we've had conversations that I've often asked the question, why do we do it that way? And I've never really liked the answer, well, it's just because we've always done it that way. And sometimes we have a bad policy of not changing bad policy. And I think this is an opportunity for those ideas to come forward so that we can entertain change that may be needed to help improve the working conditions for many people on campus, but also to improve the way in which our students can learn, and the way that our faculty can teach and do the research. Some of those ideas, I think, that come from staff who are on the front lines and see where change might be beneficial, can really be game changers for us. So this has been a particularly challenging during COVID-19, as Shane has already said, and I've heard and seen the challenges and the stress that many of our staff have faced, and Shana has shared with me the toll that the pandemic has taken on many of our staff. And so my hope is that you would also share with me what you're seeing, hearing, and feeling yourself. And so this committee, again, serves as an advisory role, and your ideas and recommendations will be critical. At the moment, my primary focus really is on our plans for the spring semester. We spend many hours every day, quite honestly, of doing everything possible to make sure that we can have a successful start and finish to that spring semester. And I want to talk a little bit more about that here later in this meeting. But we've been studying what we did this fall. Some things went well, some things didn't, and we're making changes. And I think you probably have heard many of the changes we put in place. We've made progress to try to increase our transparency, and I'm also grateful for the work of the Campus and Community Advisory Committee, of which I think a few of you are participating in. And Shana, again, thank you for co-chairing that committee alongside Mimi Chapman, chair of the faculty, and Reese Mosley, the student body president. But their work has been critical in our in providing feedback as we've moved forward for this spring semester. think improving communication is going to be really important so that we can outline our policies more clearly. And we're continuing to work closely with our public health and infectious disease experts as we move forward, especially as the COVID numbers across the country and across North Carolina are not what we would like them to be, and that's for certain. And as we know that as we're beginning that spring semester in mid to late January, it's likely that the things aren't going to look good. But again, my hope is that this committee will give regular feedback on these plans as well, and what's working as we start that spring semester and what needs to change. My team and I are advocating for our staff regularly, and there's still a lot of uncertainty about the state budget and concerns about our own structural deficit that we have here at Carolina, as well as our deferred maintenance issues, of which many of you see on a daily basis. As the oldest public university in the nation, let alone certainly in the state, we have challenges with a lot of old buildings that we've tried for many years to keep updating and keeping the maintenance where it needs to be, but unfortunately we haven't had the funds to do that. So we have three sort of buckets, if you will, of budgetary concerns that our team's been working on now for many months. The COVID-19 shortfalls, the structural deficits that really started about 7 years ago, and deferred maintenance. And so I've said from the beginning that of the pandemic that we would work to protect our mission and our people, and we've done that, and we'll continue to do that. I know that people want answers, and I promise that we'll provide those answers as we learn more. And I'm glad that Becky Mangini is here as well today to talk to us. Becky's been a really great advocate for all of our employees at the university, and really being transparent and trying to provide as much information as we have it in real time. So I just want to thank you again, and I'm going to stop there. And Shana, what I thought we might do is perhaps to go around the Zoom room here with a brief introduction of everyone, just so that we get to know one another. I know many people do know each other, but I think that would maybe be the first step. And then we'll open it up to questions, and you may have questions of me, and I have a few questions of you, and we'll talk about how we want to move forward with these monthly meetings. Does that sound like a good plan?
That sounds awesome. So why don't I just go down my list of folks?
Perfect.
So Anna, do you want to tell everybody who you are?
Yes, hi. My name is Anna Rose Medley, and I work for the Chancellor, and I am thrilled to be supporting this committee and helping Shana and Becky and Kevin prepare for meetings, as you all will be helping us prepare for meetings in the future. So look forward to working with all of you.
Great. Thank you. Stephanie.
Hey everyone, my name is Stephanie Foreman. I am an executive assistant in the Department of Health Policy and Management at the School of Public Health, and I'm really happy to be here. I am a member of the Employee Forum, and I'm co-chair of the Personnel Issues Committee with Phil.
Great. Brian. Oh, you're on mute, Brian.
Sorry, I'm Brian Collier, an assistant director in the Office of Sponsored Research. I'm also thrilled to be here. I've been with the university 7 years and have thoroughly loved it. And so I think this is a great opportunity for me to be able to contribute in a broader perspective. So thank you.
Wonderful. Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Graw. I'm an executive assistant in the University Communications Department. And I had only been at the university for about 6 months before I went to remote working. Now I've been here a little over a year, and I'm hoping I can bring some fresh perspective to the committee about what that's been like for me. And I'm happy to be here with you all and really honored. So thank you very much.
Nicole.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Wiley. I am an investigator in the Equal Opportunity and Compliance Office, and I'm excited to participate in this group. I look forward to collaborating with campus partners that I ordinarily in my day-to-day work would not have the opportunity to meet. And even more, I am excited about the mission of this group. As everyone has stated, this has been a challenging year, and we've all had to pivot in ways that we could not have imagined before this time. So having the opportunity to engage in meaningful dialogue that will hopefully impact the campus community at large is something that I personally feel excited about. So thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Phil.
Hi, I'm Phil Edwards. I'm an instructional consultant at the Center for Faculty Excellence here at UNC. Have been with the university for about 9 years, some of that time in a faculty role. And so it's been helpful to see both sides of the house over this time. I'm an employee forum delegate representing EHRA non-faculty and am a co-chair of the Personnel Issues Committee, as Steph mentioned, for the forum. Excited to see a structure like this emerge at the institution. And I think one of the things that I am hoping to see come out of this work is some amount of structural change in terms of how the organization functions, so that when we run into issues of inequity in terms of benefits or working conditions across campus, that we're able to address that less as a Band-Aid over a problem that we're going to just kind of ignore, and more thinking about what is it that this institution can do in terms of structure to help provide a wonderful working environment for the folks who are working here.
Right. Maria?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Estorino, and I'm the Associate University Librarian for Special Collections and Director of Wilson Library. When fully staffed, the libraries employ 300 non-faculty employees, and about 50 of those work in the special collections. I am really grateful to Shana and to the Employee Forum. This has been a year where their advocacy role has really become, the importance of it has really become apparent. Shana, you spoke at I think it was a faculty council meeting that I watched on live stream. And it was so heartfelt and sincere and human that in that moment, I really felt what you had to say and that you spoke for so many people. And the survey that the Employee Forum took up, I thought was so important. And I really felt very grateful to the folks who responded and who responded with as much honesty as they did, that in so many ways catalyzed the formation of this committee. And so I'm really grateful to the Chancellor for inviting me to serve on it. And I look forward to working with all of you towards the goals that we've set out to accomplish. So thank you.
Keith.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Keith Jones. I'm an assistant director in Carolina Housing in the Division of Student Affairs. I am particularly excited and actually thought I was getting a phishing email from Chancellor Guskiewicz' email when I first got invited to this, but was incredibly honored to be able to serve in this capacity and speak to the folks that work daily, our student affairs professionals, to create dynamic learning outside of the classroom for our students as they navigate Carolina, and couldn't be prouder to be here. Thank you.
Shayla.
Hi, my name is Shayla Evans Hollingsworth, and I'm an HR business partner with the College of Arts and Science Dean's Office. Also work on the Employee Forum as well. And so I'm just excited and honored to be a part of this group, as this is the first. So it's just a great opportunity. And I'm also looking just to be an advocate for staff who feel as though they don't have a voice. So thank you.
Joshua, possibly our newest member of campus.
Hi, good morning, everybody. And thank you for that. I think I've been here maybe 8 weeks, so I'm still learning. I am Josh Canzona. I'm the Associate Ombuds in the Ombuds Office for the university, where we offer an impartial and confidential resource to the entire community. I'm looking forward to learning more about the university from a variety of vantage points. And I'm happy to be part of any effort that recognizes the contributions and insight of university staff. So excited to be here.
Michael. Michael, I think you may be muted.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I've worked at UNC for 27 years. I am a support services supervisor. The reason that I wanted to be a part of this forum is that I want to be an advocate for all the maintenance technicians, the construction tradespeople. I also work closely with Mr. O's, who supplies a lot of the materials that is needed for all of the jobs that we do on campus. I'm a good listener. I think I can affect positive change. And I want to be an advocate for everybody that I work with, which is probably 200 people. Thank you.
Becky.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Becky Mangini. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Human Resources and Equal Opportunity and Compliance, and I'm delighted to be with all of you this morning. I have the good fortune to speak with and engage with members of the Employee Forum every month, and oftentimes in between meetings as well. But I'm excited to expand the breadth and depth of communication we have in human resources and in administration with a broader group of staff who can advocate and continue to tell us ways that we can partner in working together to find or to ensure that Carolina is the community that we all want it to be. So I'm serving as a liaison to this committee, not because we believe all issues are human resources related, or the things that we're going to talk about are all HR related, but rather I see my role somewhat as that of liaison. So as we identify issues and opportunities that we can work together on, I can also be helpful in connecting to others on campus and my colleagues and sort of helping move some things forward. So I'm delighted to see all of you today and look forward to working with you.
James. James, I believe you may be muted. There you go. I don't think we can hear you, James. We can't hear you. We still can't hear you. James, I'm gonna skip over to Robert while you see if you can't adjust your settings, and we'll come back to you, I promise. Robert.
Hi, good morning. My name is Robert Smith III, and not to be confused with the Robert Smith who plays in the band The Cure, I believe. I get that every now and then. I am the Associate Chair of Neurology. I've been at Carolina I'm going to my 9th year. I came from another large university, and I heard a lot of wonderful things about Carolina. And when I got here, I found that all those things are true and more. And so when this opportunity came up to serve in this capacity, it was not even a second thought. I just jumped at the opportunity. I'm new to the forum, EHRA non-faculty representative, and much like Phil, I've served as a faculty member, not here, but at other universities, and I've worked as a classified staff, as a senior executive, as a faculty member. So I've seen the spectrum of what universities are involved in, and Carolina is no different. So I'm thrilled to be a part of this process because I've already gotten emails from my colleagues in the School of Medicine saying, "Oh, we're so happy it's you. I can't wait to tell you about fill in the blank." And so, so I think they've carved out my work for me, and it hasn't even started. So thank you for the honor of serving this capacity. I'm looking forward to it.
Good morning. My name is Emma, and I'm working with the housekeeping department. And I've been in the university for almost around 6 years. And most of them I'm working on the third shift on the North Campus academic area. And I'm also thrilled to be happy to work with this committee. And I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Washington. I've been at UNC now about 6 years. I was at UNC-W prior to that. And served in a staff senate role there as well with GA. And I'm really excited to be here. I'm definitely an advocate for everyone, faculty and staff, but staff is of course near and dear to my heart, and I've worked in a variety of roles as well. I'm looking forward to sharing some ideas with all of you guys, and really, like Nicole said, I really am enjoying meeting other facets of campus that I haven't necessarily got to see. Running 2 large departments in the College of Arts and Sciences is definitely put me out there in front of a lot of things, but it is fun to see some places I'm not familiar with. So I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Mark, you're welcome. Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Wampole. I am an IT support specialist, and I work with a team that supports actually probably close to a third of you on this committee. I deal with people on and off campus and actually somewhat across the state remotely. I've been here for 21 plus years. I'm happy to have, graduated from here years ago and come back about 10 years after being in the what they call the business world, I guess you would say. I think I can say that I talk to people from different perspectives across the state, from students that I know to my coworkers in ITS. I've been working with the folks in the emergency operations centers, so I've been able to see some things that from a different light that other people don't actually see across campus. I think this will be a good experience for me, and it'll be great to work with all of you to try and figure out what's best for our staff and the rest of campus.
Jen?
Good morning, everyone. My unmute button didn't want to work there. It's so wonderful to see all of you. Some of you I know, and some of you I've never met, and I'm equally excited to see all of you, especially to learn from those of you who I haven't gotten to know quite so well. I think this is just a fantastic opportunity, and I echo what Phil was saying earlier, is I see this as a great opportunity to think about structural inequities and changes that we could be able to implement at the university. So thank you for the opportunity.
And James, wondering if you were able to get your settings adjusted.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me now. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. My name is James Holman. I'm a crew leader in the housekeeping department. Also, I'm a member of the Employee Forum. I am your representative on the University Staff Assembly. And also, I'm the chair for the State Employees Association for District 25. And I love to advocate for the employees. I want to make sure we have a safe work environment. And I thank the Chancellor for asking me to be on this committee. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Right. I think that is everybody. And so the next part of the agenda is an open discussion. And so Chancellor Guskowitz, how would you like that to work?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say well, first of all, Keith, I'm glad you opened that email. And I'm glad you all opened that email. It was not a phishing email. If you ever have a question about whether it might be, we have someone on the committee, Mark Wampole, who probably can look into that fairly quickly or connect us with the right people. So I just love this, the diversity of this group. And I'm talking about diversity broadly speaking. I mean, you represent so many different areas of our campus. The thing with staff is we tried to put this committee together. We wanted to make sure that we really had representation where, you each represent such a broad constituency that you're gonna be able to bring those voices back. And so I think we've got, as I said, just a great group here. And I think everyone that we invited said yes, if I'm not mistaken, Anna. So for that, we're grateful. And what I just want to also say is that there's nothing that you can't, or there's nothing that you shouldn't feel comfortable telling me or telling our leadership team. And I'm going to ask Becky to say a few things here in a minute, but there's nothing worse than somebody saying, well, I could have told you that 6 months ago that this was going to be a problem. Like that can't happen. If you see a problem that's bubbling up and you have some ideas around a solution for it, like now's the time to share it. We don't want to be talking about, gosh, 6 months ago, we knew this was going to happen. So I just want us to have an open and honest conversation each time we're together. I also want you to know that you'll have I know you have access to Shana, but I want you to know that you have access to me, and Anna Rose might be the best way to get to me, so I don't miss a communication, or if you want to come by to see me, Anna Rose can help to make that happen. And so don't hesitate to reach out to us. I try to keep up with email as best as I can, but copying Anna Rose on something is probably going to ensure that that I do get it and can respond in a timely manner. And so with that, I think we do just have an open conversation. I mean, I have a question that I have asked my student advisory committee, and I've asked the advisory committee, the chancellor of faculty, the same question. So at some point before we wrap up our meeting here, I do want to hear from some of you around this question of what would define success for the next 6 months, as we're still going to be dealing with the pandemic, for these next 6 months. We certainly, there's the news of the past 3 weeks around the vaccine is certainly really good news and promising news. But as we know, it will likely be late spring, as we're hearing from our infectious disease and public health experts, until we have widespread vaccination, on our campus. But so we're going to have, we still have several months ahead here, and but I do think that we have to be thinking about what it is that would define success for these next 6 months. What does success look like? I guess you can answer the question however you'd like, but I would like to hear from as many of you as possible on that question. Before I do that, I do want to turn it over to Becky just to see if she has anything more that she'd like to add, because she does an incredible job of staying in touch with the system office and those at the state personnel office as we're looking at what is possible to be sure that we're providing all the opportunities and flexibility that we can for our employees. So Becky.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that introduction. And I also appreciate a few of you talking a little bit about governance and inequities at the beginning. And I think this is going to be a really important group to help us sort of think through what we want Carolina to look like, and sort of to answer Kevin's question of what does success look like in the next 6 months. But I also think it's going to be really helpful to have all of you to help us think a little bit about how our governance structures help or impede our ability to get there. And Kevin said, I have a lot of communication with the system office and the Office of State Human Resources. I think it's also really important to understand that our structure sometimes makes an appearance of inequity that is not intentional in any way. And sometimes there are systems outside of us that drive some of that. And I think it's important to talk about it and to know what that means. And the example I'm going to give, or I think is important to share, is sort of just about when we think about employees at UNC Chapel Hill, we tend to talk about faculty and staff. Faculty are governed by the UNC system office, and we have some authority at the system office to manage policies and procedures related to them. Staff, SHRA employees, are governed by the Office of State Human Resources, and we are required to follow the policies that the State Human Resources Office puts in place, which then pass down through the system office and then come to us. EHRA non-faculty are governed in part, in a few spaces, by the Office of State Human Resources, but largely by the system office, but with a different set of policies and guidance than faculty. And then each one of those employee types have separate grievance policies that they can manage or utilize if individual employees have concerns along the way. That's important to recognize, because when we talk about what sort of Carolina we want to be, we sometimes talk about, I want Kevin, or I want administration to do X, Y, or Z for employees. And sometimes the parameters of our governance don't really allow things to look exactly the same because of the structures that we are under in terms of our overall governance. That is not an excuse in any way. And I do think we're committed to trying to find a way to ensure that everybody is recognized for the very important work they do, because it takes us all to make Carolina happen and be our best. But it is important to recognize that some of the decisions and choices and options we pursue as a group will require that we sort of navigate these outside units, whether it's the Office of State Human Resources, whether it's the system office, whether it's the Office of State Budget Management. Sometimes we have to sort of advocate and navigate their systems in order to get what we want. Again, that's not intended to be a barrier, just sort of an educational platform from which we can all start as we think about when we talk about staff issues. It's not as easy as a one size fits all, both for our governance reasons and for exactly what Kevin said. The beauty of all of you is that you represent all parts of campus, but then all different types of jobs. And so unlike with students and faculty, where the experience is a little bit more homogeneous, we have a much more diverse experience among our staff. So finding solutions that address all of the concerns sometimes takes a little bit more nuance, and we're going to rely on all of you to help us figure out ways to best do that. I'm going to leave it there because I get sort of into the weeds on some of that stuff, but I just think it's important groundwork from which we can all work moving forward.
Thanks, Becky. So, Shana, maybe we should just open it up to either questions, suggestions, or maybe answers to the question that I've asked, if that's okay. And Shana, you may also have want to lead with a question or as well.
So just some thoughts. I think during this process, we would need to come up with some strategies and some goals. And I think we can work through that. But I think initially success looks like to me where staff feel emboldened to share thoughts and ideas in many of their spaces. And I can say this from firsthand experience and also from secondhand experience. Staff feel as though they have a lot to offer, but are not encouraged to share any of their thoughts or concerns. And more importantly, sometimes when they do, they're treated as though they are the problem, not the person raising the issue of the problem. And so initially success to me looks like staff really feeling emboldened. Like you said earlier, if we are sitting here 6 months later saying, I really wish I'd said that, that isn't success for me either. I mean, I would love for us to really be able to come into this space and openly talk about some issues that I think need addressing. Faculty have advocacy and this sense of support when they raise issues, as if this is, part of what they do, this thoughtful process of being a faculty member. But I would like to see staff on an equal basis, because I think the, great things come from areas where you don't expect them. That has been my experience. Does anybody else want to talk about initially?
To that point, before I forget, I want to be sure as we think about the January meeting, because we'll meet monthly, what will likely happen, and this has worked well with the way in which our faculty advisory committee works, and Anna can speak a little more to how our student advisory committee works. But I meet with Suzanne Gullidge, who's the chair of the faculty advisory committee, and we'll meet a few days before those meetings and develop an agenda, but some questions that I'm interested in asking and hearing, from the faculty about getting their input. But she also reaches out to the members of that committee. There are 12 members of that committee to see if there are questions, issues that are bubbling up that they would like to discuss at that meeting. And so it's sort of a really nice, we have a conversation then around these topics that are generated, and people typically come into the meeting knowing what I'm interested in getting feedback on, and I'm aware of what's sort of on their minds that they're bringing to the table. So we'll probably try that for the first few months to see how that works, just in terms of setting up those meetings. So I'll stop there. And I think the student advisory committee works not too different from that.
Yeah, I think that I'll work with Becky and Shana, and we'll definitely get the meetings on the calendar, but also talk through a lot of those, you know, what we'd like to see on those agendas, and people will have input. So that's great.
So the floor is open.
Hey everyone, I'll jump in here. I think both on a short term, kind of in COVID world, but then also kind of on a long-term basis, an important piece of success for me is staff really feeling like they are in the loop. And Becky does a really good job of this at employee forum meetings, updating us on things she doesn't have updates on, and understanding that that's a different like space and a different context, and it's easier to kind of provide those kinds of updates to the forum in our monthly meetings. But I think it's equally important for staff across, or really employees across the university, to hear similar messages on a regular basis. So there isn't confusion that, you know, oh, I don't know what's going on because no one's telling me, versus there haven't been any changes and we don't have an update, but we're working on it. And I think as the spring semester rolls out, and, you know, maybe changes happen during the spring semester, maybe they don't, who knows, just being very mindful of making sure that staff feel like they have all the information, even the information that includes no new information. A big complaint feeling that came through on the survey was just feeling lost information wise, and that really adds to the stress that everyone's feeling for all of the other reasons. And so even things around you know, return to campus, even if it looks different for everyone, a message around the expectation is if you can keep working from home, you will be working from home. That lays a groundwork for staff to just start thinking about what their lives look like, both professionally in the university, but then at home, and managing kind of all parts of our life with as much information as we can have from the university, from administration, from our schools, whatever that is. But just making sure staff feel very in the loop feels really important and will be a mark of success for me.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I want to echo what Shana and Stephanie said, just coming from a communications perspective. And when I've watched Becky on employee forums, she speaks with such candor and authenticity about what's happening, and I always feel like I'm in the loop. And I think we need to make sure that we're doing that in our communications to employees, that we communicate in that way to them so they know what's happening. And also what resources are available. So sometimes I think there are things and supports and things that are available, but we're not always linking people back to that. So success for me would be, you know, thinking about how our staff feels acknowledged and heard. And that is, you know, repeating the survey and not just getting a different result, but also just getting more participation in the survey. So people are feeling like we hear you.
It's good.
I will say that, you know, when I was in the Navy, something my chief used to always say to me is, if you want to create change, you must be willing to be a catalyst for that change. And so I think that's why we are all here. Again, like Stephanie said, the things I'm hearing is really just this real lack of communication. I know when I was having a staff meeting with my own group the other day, I went to the roadmap and went under, you know, the return to work, and there was a 404 message. It's been there for about a month now, at least. So there hasn't been any updates put there. I think what we're seeing is that a lot of people, one, don't have access to computers and emails during their job, like housekeeping and some of the other areas that don't have regular access. And so that should not be our only form of communication. I know with the student groups, there's a lot of chats, they have their Reddit groups, they have a lot of other ways to communicate through their phones and things like that. And I really think we should be thinking about how we're putting that message out and framing it to the staff, because I think, you know, we all have such a diverse, as Becky said, diverse jobs and diverse ways of working that, you know, just sending an email, as you even mentioned, Chancellor, can get lost, or it's not something in which it is flagged as important. And so they miss things like our survey and so on. And so I feel like if we can do a little bit better, for lack of a better word, marketing to the staff, that could be something we could work on potentially as a group here. But again, I'm excited to see what we can accomplish here and that we can actually create change and not just talk about change.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm just curious, the Well is a relatively new publication that is put out, and I'm curious if you feel we're using it in the right way. Could there be more we could be doing with the Well in terms of how we get information out on a weekly or daily basis, as opposed to saying, check out the website? Thoughts on that? Do you all read the Well? Do you feel as if your colleagues read the Well?
I'll say I really like it. I think the daily briefings are useful. I do think we could probably use the Well to share more of kind of the hard information of reopening, of what's happening. I love the stories about amazing things people at Carolina are doing, but sometimes it can feel a little bit like the Well is less hard news and more interesting, fun things about Carolina and amazing accomplishments that are happening. I would also say that I think communication from the fall till now has improved dramatically. So I just want to say thank you for that, and add to what everyone has said so far, that transparent communication, particularly around decision making and why we're making the decisions we're making, I think is very important. And I recognize that there are no hard metrics, that we can't just say, okay, when we hit this %, we're not coming back, or we're definitely coming back, but just trying to be as clear as we can about the things we're considering as we make decisions.
Hi, this is Maria. I wanted to follow up on what Jennifer was speaking about in terms of different methods of communication, not relying solely on email and the website, because it ties back to me in some ways to the question of equity and what Becky was speaking to. I really appreciate, Becky, the overview you gave us about how there's just a complex web of policies and decision makers behind some of the ways in which we might observe structural inequity. But I think there's more to it than that. And what Jennifer was pointing to is a perfect example. Equity can't just be about HR policy. So in the public schools, right, this is the same issue. I sit on the school improvement team for my older daughter's middle school. And at our recent meeting, there was a conversation about this exact same thing, that not all families have consistent and reliable access to email and to internet. And our school was not was not sending out phone calls. There's also questions about language equity. I don't have statistics for what the primary language is of many of our employees, but I have wondered, how do employees whose first language is not English and who maybe are not as strong in English, how are they receiving information, and how are they able to participate in conversations about what is happening and how things are changing? But equity, this is, it's hard for me to think about the next 6 months because there's just so much uncertainty in our lives about it. And if I may, I'd like to just speak a little bit to the question beyond 6 months about, what does success look like? Because I feel like this question of equity, there's a lot of room for the university to think creatively about what that means. What are the commitments that we make to staff, and what are the investments that we make in staff? I'm surprised sometimes when I see so many amazing programs that are available to faculty for leadership development, for diversity hires, for diversity leadership development, and that there are no similar pathways available to staff for that kind of growth and contribution. And that's what I mean by investments in. When faculty submitted, when a group of faculty last semester, I think it was, I forget now if it was in the spring or the summer, but the roadmap for diversity amongst faculty, I read that, and every single thing said, we could use that too as the HRA non-faculty. We could also use that kind of program. And so to me, a measure of success would be that we expand creatively how we think about what equity looks like for staff. Again, what are the university's commitments to and investments in? In librarianship, there is this concept of vocational awe where, just the virtue of being a librarian means that you do anything to accomplish the goals of the profession. And it's a dangerous space sometimes, because I think sometimes it could be sacrificial in ways that are not perhaps healthy for the librarian or for their community. And I think that sometimes in Carolina, there is a Carolina awe where, you know, we're lucky to be here. And I'd love for us to get to a place where Carolina feels like it's lucky to have us here.
Well, Maria, I really appreciate your comments, and what I want to encourage the team here, we're a team to do the committee, but we'll call ourselves a team, is to take a close look at our strategic plan, maybe over this holiday break, if you have a chance to look at that. And Becky is the captain, if not the co-captain, maybe the captain, I think, of our initiative around career development. And it's, I think, maybe initiative 3 or 4 of 8. And we really need this team to come together to help us think about, because it is not just directed at career development for students or promotion of faculty. It clearly identifies that staff are part of this, and we want to try to promote upward mobility for our staff at Carolina, so that we don't lose you. We want you to stay here, as you just said, Marie, to be part of Carolina for forever, we hope. And we want to create a sight line for you to other opportunities at the university. So let's make that an effort to focus in, and maybe at our January meeting, Becky could give maybe an overview of that strategic initiative and what the opportunities are that are nested within it.
Thank you. And I will just add, I appreciate you bringing up the strategic plan, because one final note I wanted to make about this idea of what equity could look like outside of policy, you know, like HR policy making, is committee composition. You know, there's the roadmap. And speaking of communication, you know, like how are staff learning about what's happening with the roadmap? I know that there's a website, you know, what is staff representation in the committees? I'm not challenging or questioning that, but every time that a new committee or new group gets announced, I'll be honest, I look to see is there any staff on this committee? And I think that would be an easy thing to think about, is where are there opportunities to guarantee, you know, to ensure that there are staff serving on the different kinds of groups that help run the place.
I'll just jump in and say one thing. I was on the committee that looked at the survey, and one thing that struck me was some of the comments that were made, and I felt like, wow, these are things that we've addressed within the School of Medicine. And so if you were to ask me what the success would look like, for me, I think there are many, many, many pockets of excellence with respect to communication, operations, a number of those kinds of things. And for me, success would be, how do we translate that across the entirety of the organization? How do we leverage that cross-fertilization such that you know, I don't hear all these wonderful things within the School of Medicine, and my colleagues in education or government, they don't hear the same thing. So I think it starts with how we can develop the leaders within those areas and give them the tools that they need to be more effective communicators. So me, success would look like greater or enhanced cultural competent communications. And I mean that across the entire strata of the university. So that's what I would like to see and would deem that as successful.
Great. Thanks, Robert. That's great.
Hi. Hello. I would like to talk about the housekeeping department a little bit. We have the Burmese community in the housekeeping department, and a lot of these people cannot read English at all. Okay. Some of them, they can't speak English fluently. I've got one lady that works up under me. She can't understand what I'm saying. I have to have somebody to interpret her work assignments to her. Okay. We did talk about having English classes for these people set up. Okay, they did. I think something was done about that. But when you're trying to communicate to people that don't understand, they're sitting there listening to you, and they're not understanding a word that you're saying. I mean, so what I'm trying to say is, I guess, you know, we need to figure out a way to let these people know so they all know what policy is, what they're supposed to be doing here, what's happening here at this university, what's going on now. I know years ago, it used to be when they had managers meetings, the secretary would take notes, the zone manager would come back and explain everything that happened in that meeting. Then it stopped, everything stopped. They say it's on a need to know basis, right? some things you don't need to know. So, I mean, communication is very important, especially in our department. So, just I want to say.
Thanks,
If
Jane.
I want to jump in on this one, is like I do know it. Most of them, like our staff, nobody, at least 85% of the employee did not read. They don't read for their email. That means whatever it is the university announcing from the email, they don't really know it. And that means is like if we have a staff meeting or anything like that will happen, and like we have to communicate with our employee with. Like sometimes we can explain to them. Sometimes it's like we have to tell them exactly what is going on. That means it's like in that way it's like our employee, our staff have to get them more educated for them, let them know what's going on in their safety and also like their work environment. In that way, in that time, it's not only our staff, the part of the management side too, either too. They have to be like a part of the educated too, because they need to learn how to communicate with their staff.
Thank you.
I just want to say we have about 3 minutes. So I wanted to be respectful of everyone's time here.
I have one thing. It's not COVID related though. One thing that I've been hearing on my end is the promotions within. Employees are feeling like, or I should say staff are feeling like when it's time for promotion, the salaries that are being offered to them is not as high as someone who may be hired outside of the campus. So I think that is one concern that we should try to work through or try to do something about. So that's my one thing.
So I think this
I'm gonna. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead, Becky.
I'm going to just jump in. I am reluctant because I don't want to sound defensive in any way, because I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of this feedback. I will tell you that there is a message drafted that is making its rounds through approvals and making sure it's accurate about return to work. And so that should be in your inboxes for those who can and get and read email. We'll also do some social media pieces, but I'm going to lean really heavily on this group to help us think about ways that we can ensure that everybody's getting that information accurately. We were working with some folks in facilities and housekeeping at one point in time to try to make sure the things that had policy implications were being discussed at leadership and then passed down. I don't know. It sounds like maybe that's not working at the ways it should. But email certainly has its advantages in being it's a broad tool, but you all are also an incredible network. So one, I want feedback that for things that we can do in HR and in the administration to better communicate those things. But then also you all have networks of people you're working with. And if you're getting those messages, if you can help us think about ways that you can also distribute some of that important information, that would be helpful. I will tell you that as we think about return to campus and some of the benefits pieces, there is a lot that remains unknown. And as Kevin sort of pointed out, everything is changing. And in a time of great uncertainty, we'd love to be able to tell you something with certainty. And this message does say, this is what we know right now. But I mean, just last night, the governor issued another executive order, which changes some things, and we may have to sort of think about what the implications are. So all of that is to say there is a message coming, and hopefully that'll help answer some questions. But I would also value, as we think about doing more of that communication, having this group help us give insights on what works and what doesn't. And there was a second piece related to communications that I was going to add in. Now I've lost it. It feels like Friday and it's not even Wednesday midday. So I'll leave it at that. But I certainly want to make clear that if we can do things differently, I want your feedback in our shop to get the message out, because we're all in this together and it takes all of us to make it happen.
And I'm going to give, thanks, Becky. That's really important. I'm going to just jump in here real quick and then turn it to Shana for closing comments. and the last word. I think there's a common theme here throughout a lot of what we've heard today in our very first meeting, and it's around communication. And I think that's an area where we have to get better. I'm committed to making sure that happens. It helps that we have Amy Grau here. Amy works on the communications team, and I'm sure she's been taking this in as well, and we'll be working to to see how we can get better at this. And so we'll have that as one of the themes for that January meeting. In the meantime, please share with us what you continue to hear, and I hope everyone has a restful holiday season coming up, and look forward to seeing everybody in January. But I'm going to turn it to Shana.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So in terms of communication, I think the next step would be